Welcome to Significance Breed Success. My name is Daniel Puder. Today, I'm excited because we have a rock star from Canada on here. Joseph Fung is the CEO of Uvaro, and I'm really excited because he not only does that, he impacts a lot of lives, helps people. But I really want to dive in today about sales because I find so many people think that sales is this huge thing when it can be so simple of helping people get educated on what you have to offer and how it can solve problems. And so thanks for jumping on today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Daniel. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a great chat. Looking forward to it.
Love it, love it. So tell me about Canada real quick. Like you just said you had snow on your balcony and I have sunshine outside in South Florida. I mean, why Canada? You grew up there. Were your parents from there originally, or like how did you get to Canada?
Yeah, so parents. So my mother was born in Canada. My father immigrated here for school. So I was born, raised here, spent some time in Germany, in California. I've grown companies in the Boston area and the San Francisco area. But part of what I love about being here is when I think about growing a really scalable company, and when I think about working in a place that's vibrant, but also where I want to raise my kids, I just love it here. It's such a great fit for kind of me and what I want out of my companies and my life.
That's awesome. So you talk about Silicon Valley.
Mhm.
Were you ever out there with business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with my last couple of companies, raised money in Silicon Valley, had team members in Silicon Valley, sold my last company to an SV based software company. So I was down there like a week a month. So it really was a second home. My son was born in Silicon Valley. So it is. It's a great space. Um, but the reality is, it's not that far away. I mean, even less so now that we're all on Zoom all the time. So, my only complaint, the only one, we were talking about this earlier, is I feel like a terrible Canadian because I hate the cold. I'm always worried that they're going to kick me out. So, I like getting down to Miami whenever I can, even just because of the art, the heat, the weather, all of that. So, yeah,
So I was born in Silicon Valley in Cupertino, California.
nice.
So it's so amazing because when I was younger, my elementary schools, we had little the original Apple twos or whatever they were called, and it's crazy to be able to see technology today because I was one of the first betas kids
Hmm.
in the early in the mid '80s with all computers in every single in every single one of our schools. So a lot of people in different cities didn't have that, and it was a huge blessing to get that in front of a lot of people. What what do you find about being a CEO is most attractive to you? Like, why build companies? Why do what you do?
I mean, the reason why I do this all the time is I love building great places to work. That's really what gets me up in the morning. When I think about why I founded my first company, it came back to that. I was working at a multinational military contractor. They had a new president. I was super excited. Everybody was fearful. It's like, is he going to come and cut jobs? Is he going to close this factory? Like all that kind of stuff. And those kind of events just really hit me as, you know what, as business owners, as leaders, we should build places where people can do great work, feel fulfilled, and not have that kind of fear. So that's what gets me up in the morning. Um, in terms of why I keep doing it, it's addictive. You can't stop. It's tough. Like there's hard days and good days, but seeing people flourish and thrive, and I get to see this in our sales school as well. But when you're working with people day in, day out for multiple years at a time, you get to see their journey. And knowing you had a little part in contributing to that is just very fulfilling.
I love that. So I'm with you 100%. I found we have six private schools and we have some amazing companies, and I find that it's it's so much fun to build a different culture. We've had so many people join us and say, "Oh my gosh, we've never had this kind of culture within education." For my previous jobs, which is awesome. Um, Let me ask you this: sales. I find some of our kids that go to our school, they're going to jail at 10, 12, 14 for selling drugs. Like
Mhm.
these kids are hustlers. Like they're natural born sales entrepreneurs. Um, and you guys have an amazing 12-week program. with Uvaro, and I love what you're up to. How did you guys design what you're up to? And I'd love a couple tips or tools about sales, because so many people are, they want to learn it, or they have a job and they're like, okay, I can't do anything else. Like I've heard, I'll just give you in education, so many professors or teachers, like, they don't pay me enough. And I'm thinking to myself, if you don't get paid what you want, why are you not out there figuring out how to get what you want? So there's a lot of complaints and then justification, and there's this whole mental process, right? So sales is so difficult to so many people because of their internal, feelings on and beliefs on money, or getting people to buy something, or what if I'm no good at it, whatever those things are. So I'd love some wisdom from you.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to get any wisdom. I've got an opinion, but I don't know about it saying wisdom. It's funny. I think one of the things that entrepreneurs really have is this irrational confidence that they're going to figure it out. And the reality is, getting into sales right now, today, you actually, by and large, almost need that same confidence, because companies are so bad at hiring and trading salespeople. Like, let's think about a different role. You said, I want to be an engineer, or, I want to work in accounting, or I want to work in HR. You don't think to yourself, oh, I have to be extroverted and figure it all out myself. Like, no, you go to school, you go to a program, companies hire you and train you, and you get certifications, and none of that exists in sales. No school's teaching it. Less than 2% of colleges, universities in US and Canada have any kind of sales program, and that's a travesty. Okay, so we've ragged on them. Happy to do that more, but we've ragged on them. But companies alone, tech is really bad at this. And I say this as a tech entrepreneur, love in my heart, but so many tech leaders and CEOs think their sales reps come fully formed. Like, they've got these job descriptions that are irrational. It's like, you need to have 3 years selling B2B software using our CRM, our sales engagement software, know our process, know this terminology. Oh, and you have to know the industry and have a strong internet connection and be charismatic, went to a college, did sports, so you're really competitive. The reality is, that's not reasonable. And all we've really done is closed a bit of that gap. Like, let's demystify a bit of what sales is, because it isn't actually that daunting. Those are typical excuses. I'm too old, or I didn't go to the right school, or, I don't have an Ivy League background. Those aren't actually real objections once you see how sales works. And we're introducing you to tech companies so that, you're not just applying without any experience, you're actually applying with more experience, and then it crosses those barriers that the tech companies have. Because now you're closer to fully formed, and you can get those interviews a lot easier. And it's so cool to see.
So I find that every single job that anybody will ever have there's a component of sales within it.
Mm-hmm.
People, from my opinion, like teachers, I'll just go with educators. So I'm not an educator. Well, technically I was a professor, but I'm not like an educator by trade. I became a professor because I created a course that was on belief intelligence, and then I sold it as a concept to the university, and then I told them I didn't have a college degree, and then finally they wanted it so much that they let me teach it. But it's interesting because I sold a product that they can't do with all the PhDs they had, because they were all here and they weren't here.
Yep.
So how do you find how do people start to wake up and see the ability that are like their God-given gifts, and then or how do you pull that out of them to the next level? Because teaching them the concepts, the systems, the processes, the programs and all that, you guys can teach that. That's like, a framework. But how do you get them to go from all head to really caring about people's success? And I find that's the significance. That's why our show is called Significance Breeds Success, because I can go sell a product, but at the end of the day, if I make you 10x or you 1% better, you're going to remember that in your life, and you're going to go pass it forward.
It's so true. It's funny because if you talk to a tech company and you say, what do people need to do? They'll say, hey, they've got to be able to use HubSpot, Salesforce, Zoom. It's like, what the hell? That's all the easy stuff. If you talk to somebody looking to get into a role of sales, they'll often look at a job posting and it'll say, you got to know HubSpot things. And so they come in thinking that. And you're right. It's not actually the most important. So it's a small part of the time that we have. The way we tackle those bigger questions for us, our program is not just a bunch of online videos. We spend a lot of time in class, and that's a big differentiator for how we navigate that. So if you're in our program, it's 2 hours a day, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. And that's a lot of live coaching and practice. What we're working on in those times is demystifying a couple of those misconceptions, but then helping people practice that language. So a couple examples. Number one, people often think sales is about dragging a prospect over a finish line. And we see that, like we see some coaches who are out there that like every person is a customer and I'm going to sell them everything I've got. It's like, well, that's not always the case. Yeah, everybody's out there buying for different things, but that doesn't mean that every prospect you speak to is going to be your customer. Let's talk about solving problems. Uncover a real problem. If you can't solve that problem, maybe don't sell them your solution. Help them out in a different way. And then they're going to value that and come back to you. And that's a good example. When we spend time practicing that, it really, if you're in sales, we're talking about qualification and disqualification. But to somebody who's new to this space, it's actually about, not misrepresenting. It's about being genuine. And then we take that further and we talk about authenticity. How do you find your story, your why, what wakes you up, and then bring that to bear? I'll give you an example because that sounds really fuzzy. I know.
No. To me, it sounds real, but yeah, break it down.
Yeah. So to give you an example, one of our students, a recent student, immediately before Uvaro, spent 20 years as a pastor. And he's thinking, I need to not just have an impact on people's lives, but how do I have a bigger impact? How do I feel fulfilled? How do I take my step forward and do this? I mean, that's a career shift, pastor to tech sales. As he was going through our program and uncovered, what helps him feel fulfilled? How does he help people realize their hopes and dreams, do more than they could before? He found that in selling security software, AI-powered security software. Because what it does is it lets people run more secure companies. It helps the people in those roles do more than they could. And the company as a whole, because they're using this very modern technology, are actually realizing a future that they couldn't have imagined beforehand. And he came to us not sure where this was going to go and came out of it working with this incredible company, navigating this huge career shift. And he never thought that sales was the career that he wanted. But when he realized, every day that he spends asking his congregation questions, uncovering their pain points, helping them navigate their challenges, it's the same thing he's doing in sales. It's just figuring out where those two things are connected. And you have to do that in live sessions with people, practicing it.
So I absolutely love it. So pain points and discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that a lot of people think that selling something is like, I have this phone, you need it, here you go. It's not going after the discovery of the pain points to be able to solve and or support somebody on their growth. So I'd love to have a little bit of that. And the second piece is what you said. I absolutely love it. Is if you can't maybe support them where they're at, then maybe you can do something else as maybe a human or within your relationships. Talk about those 2 points a little bit.
You're absolutely right about discovery. And it's hard because if you Google sales training, you take a look at YouTube videos, you're going to see exactly that. Sell me this phone, sell me this pen. And I mean, YouTube is full of these very compelling, very entertaining videos. Like that's what YouTube's good at. But it doesn't necessarily tell you what's a really good buying experience. And thinking about how does that person on the tail end, really want to be sold to? How do they want to buy something? And when we talk about discovery, to our classes and to our students and to our customers, really what we're trying to do is help uncover what is the root pain that's causing you that visceral feeling. Like, if you think about the phone, people aren't shopping for a phone. They're shopping for the fact that they want to keep in touch with family. Their current phone is glitching and it's causing them frustration, or their current phone is fragile. Like last time I got a new phone, it's because my current phone was cracked and it was cutting my hand every time I took it out of my pocket.